This video is brought to you in collaboration with WoWhead.com. Hello everyone. As always, a quick heads up, we are going to be talking about Before the Storm as well as a Battle for Azeroth Alpha. So if you don't want any spoilers about the book or what might happen in the game, then this is not the video for you. So Before the Storm is the latest Warcraft novel released, which takes place after a victory in Argus and the imprisonment of Sargeras. The Lord of the Legion was able to stab our world and do some massive damage to the planets. Azeroth is dying and bleeding a somewhat new substance called Azerite. That and the events with the Desolate Council. Those are the two major storylines told in the book, so let's begin with the Azerite. This stuff was first discovered by Gallywix, all the way back to the Goblin days of Kazan, all the way back to the Cataclysm. It turns out that Deathwing showing up or the Cataclysm, they might not actually been the reason for the volcano to go active and destroying their little island. It could have very well been the goblins digging so deep that they actually struck the blood of the world. They actually found Azerite. He placed it in his cane for safekeeping, and with recent events, the ore inside has changed color from red to gold again. Touching this stuff, it has some incredible effects on the people. Forget Kajamite or Kajakola, this is the real deal, as it can give you a feeling of being mighty. Thoughts will race through your brain, not simply calculating, cunning or clever thoughts, but shining, frighteningly brilliant ones. Innovative, creative, it can heal the soul, it can destroy civilizations. This stuff is a power unlike any they've ever experienced. And like Sylvana said,
this will change everything.
Those that touch it, they all have a similar experience to its properties. Although it's an unknown and new substance for the moment, the potential of it is instantly clear. There was speculation that it might also have some mind-controlling or mind-altering abilities, which might be something that they'll still play around with, but in the book, it doesn't really seem to be a thing. Instead, it comes down to the individual on how they could utilize it. Sylvanas, for example, she saw herself no longer as the Dark Lady or even a queen. She was a goddess of destruction and creation, and she was stunned that she had never understood how deeply those two were intertwined. Armies, cities, entire cultures. She could raise them and fell them. Stormwind would be among the first, yielding its people to swell the numbers of her own. She could deal death on a scale that... yeah, all in all, she wants to weaponize it. Anduin has strategies racing through his head, each of them sound and successful, each of them a shift in comprehension and ensuring a lasting peace that benefited every being on Azeroth. He felt like he could not only climb mountains, he could move them. He could end war, channel the light into every dark corner. He was exultant and also perfectly, wholly calm and completely certain as to how to channel this rushing river. No, not a river, a tsunami of energy and power. Not even the light affected him as this did. The sensation was similar, but less spiritual, more physical and more alarming. What could be done with this? How many could it heal? How many could it strengthen, soothe, invigorate or inspire? How many could it kill? The thought was a gut punch, and he felt the elation inspired by the gemstone retreats. Yeah, Anduin wants to use it to bring peace and keep others safe. There are those amongst the Alliance that want to use it in an offensive manner, like Rogers for example, but Anduin, he's pretty clear about his intentions, and the rest follow his lead. Throughout the story, we read about a goblin-gnome couple. Yep, goblin-gnome love that is now a confirmed thing, and they work on ways on how to use Azerite, like armor, antidotes, and of course weapons. In the end, Safranet, Vivers and Grisik, they don't exactly want to hand over the work to the Horde, as they know what's going to happen to the labor of love, and they rather take the chances with the Alliance. They don't really get a choice though, as during their escape, they get captured. They're tied to a bomb and then it explodes, but it doesn't exactly say if they blow up or not, so maybe there'll be something that will show up in the next expansion. Yet Azerite, that is the lifeblood of this world, her essence, and Magni Bronzebeard, he can hear her cries of agony. The world is dying, and he doesn't just let the Alliance and Horde know. This is a problem that affects all life on the planet, and he goes around making sure that everyone's priorities are in order.
The storm's gathering, hero. If we don't find a way to heal Azeroth, nothing else is gonna matter.
While speaking with the Alliance, they're quickly on board, and they're going to send out the Explorers League, the Cenarian Circle and the Earthen Ring to Silithus. The Horde is asked to get the goblins out of there, as they're just making bad things worse, and if they're not going to stop, we might need to find a new world to call home. Sylvanas isn't really too happy with the King of Diamonds showing up, but she does let Bane lead the response to heal Azeroth after telling him to stop communicating with Anduin Wrynn, as that has still been a thing. Magni then leaves them behind to next inform the Centaur and Desolates of what is going on. Like I said, he is going around and warning everyone. So that's the situation with Azerite. It's a new powerful substance that's going to change everything. It's going to change the war, it's going to change the balance of power. The next big thing, that is the Desolate Council, an organization that slowly formed once the Dark Lady became the war chief. While other members of the Horde, they criticize her for not showing the other races enough attention. Her own people, the Forsaken, they say that she'd be giving them too much, and a void of power has developed within the Undercity. They're not another Putris or anything. They have no intention of seizing power from the Dark Lady. They just make sure that there's a governing body to tend to the population's needs. But since the Forsaken now have a free will, something even shown during their starting experience, as they have the choice to join the Forsaken or not, it also gives them a choice to disagree with the Banshee Queen's views. She has personally seen her hell, and she wants to stay alive forever, but some have begun to wonder if they were even meant to do so. How much should they exactly do? How far should they go just to keep existing? That's a question arising among some of the Forsaken, as well as emotions and memories to their days amongst the living. This is set up with Anduin's caretaker Will Benton dying, who in his final moments, he can't see his beloved wife Elsie waiting for him. If she had died, she would be waiting, and if she had survived, surely she would have found a way back to him. His last request to Anduin is to tell her that he always loved only her. If you see her, tell her I'll wait for her. As luck would have it, Elsie is actually the leader of the Desolate Council, and there are more amongst the Forsaken that would love to see their living family again. Now you might remember that when the Forsaken asked to join the Alliance, the messengers, they never made it back, but times definitely have changed. Years have passed now, and there's a new leadership. Not only that, we also saw Alonce's Fowl make a return in Legion, the one responsible for the creation of the Paladins in the Alliance. He came back as an undead priest, and he worked with priests from all around the world to fight against the Legion.
Forgive the secrecy. Old habits die hard. I am Alonce's Fowl. At times, I have been a leader of a church, a mindless minion of the Scourge, and a commander in a secret war. But I have always been a priest first.
More Forsaken were accepted as just priests, comrades in arms against the might of the Legion. If they could do it on a small scale amongst the priest order hall within Netherlight Temple, is there then the potential for a reunion between the living and the undead? The spark of an idea, the seed of change was there, and it would only take a few good people with good intentions to make it so. Now I'd highly recommend to actually pick up the book and read how all of this is built up, because I would never be able to retell it and do it justice. It's not exactly just an idea popping up and yeah, let's go, let's have the Forsaken and humans reunite. They definitely take the proper time for it, there's planning and examples that it could work. Like Turellian, he has been brilliantly used, as he was there during the days that Alonce's was still alive. He was one of the first paladins of the Order of the Silver Hand. Turellian, the one so devoted to the light, and a member of the story when the undead was just seen as shadow and pure evil, he has been used to make a change. When Anduin sets up a meeting with Turellian and Alonce's, the paladin, he first brims with rage. He sees Alonce's as nothing but a being that has stolen his form to parade around with, wearing him as if he were a suit of clothing. The undead in his eyes are unholy, so Alonce's, he walks up to him, arms spread, and he asks him to look for the light within. You will find it, and if you do not, then I do beg of you to strike me down, for I would not wish to exist as a broken corpse that the light has abandoned. And so, the High Exarch does, and he does find the light. He finds his old friend again. His arrogance was blinding him to what was clear all along, had he looked with the right eyes. There is more to the Forsaken than just seeing them as dark, unholy creatures, but it's definitely going to take some time for that mindset to change. At first, they asked around to find out who's even willing to meet up with their former loved ones and friends. Same is done on the Forsaken side within the Desolate Council. And of course, there are a lot of negotiations on how this is going to go down, since the two sides, they're not exactly friends with each other. Not to mention that Sylvanas definitely has quite a few reservations when it comes to all of this. She cares about the Forsaken, and this will only lead to pain for her people. They cannot be human, and to dangle this temptation of reunion with loved ones, it will result in them growing discontented with who they really are, discontented with the Forsaken. They will deteriorate to heartbroken shells, wanting something that they can never have. But Nathanos, he lets her know that she could actually use this to her advantage. Many Forsaken wish for their next death to be their last death. They do not wish to keep existing like Sylvanas does, and one reason commonly cited is that they want to be with those that they loved while they lived. If she would authorize this experience, this reconnection with the people they loved in life, and present it to them as something that she has generously granted them, perhaps they will be more amenable to accepting her solution, finding ways to keep the Forsaken as a race from going extinct. It's only going to be for a single day. Give them this hope, this moment with people that they thought they'd never see again. Then she holds the power to their happiness, at least in this aspect. Or they might decide that they hate the living and be all the more devoted to the Dark Lady. Either way, Sylvanas would win. Like I said, if you really want all those details on how this idea sparked to life, definitely pick up the book. Now, as planned, the meeting took place, and while some humans, despite agreeing to come to this meeting, they still turned away at the last moment and crushed the Forsaken that showed up, others, they definitely had a very touching reunion. So much so that they did not want the day to end at all. One of them approached the priest, Kalia Menethil, sister to Arthas Menethil, who like Alonsus also showed up again in Legion.
Let us get to introduce you to Kalia Menethil. Yes, that Menethil. She has been a great help these past few years. I'd like her to assist you helping the helpless, conveying your word to the world. All that.
We find out that she had secretly fallen in love with a footman. She got married and she even had a child. But all of that was before Arthas and the Scourge. She doesn't remember much of that period, besides lying in a ditch while the Scourge passed over her. Eventually, she was able to make her way to South Shore, and there she reunited with her little family. For a time, they were happy. No one recognized her, since all assumed that she was dead. But then, the Blight came. They ran, but in the crowds they were separated. While she was saved and taken past the limits of the town, she never found her family again, and she was hoping that they might have become forsaken, that word of them might reach her at this meeting. That would not be the case. Instead, she was recognized for who she truly was, and they asked her to be there for them, be there for the Forsaken that did not want to go back home. This was actually an idea that they discussed earlier between Anduin and Kalia. The question was she still the rightful heir to Lordaeron? Would she want Stormwind to wage war against the Hordes and reclaim her throne? Would a war even be worth it? But Kalia, she said that those who currently inhabit Lordaeron live there in life. The Forsaken are the true heirs. It belongs to them now, and the best that she can do for those whom she would have ruled is exactly what she already was doing, being a priest and healing. Yet like I said, some of the Forsaken did not want this day to end, and despite all the rules set up before this meeting, they asked Kalia to be there for them, and they started walking towards Stormguard Keep, away from the Banshee Queen. They're defecting, Sylvanas realized, and all hell broke loose. The Rangers with her, they started shooting down those that dared to betray her, but she was also very smart about it. They made sure to only kill her own Forsaken, since that way she would be the one to start the Alliance Horde war and still keep up her end of the bargain when it came to this meeting. Sadly, not all of the Forsaken, not all of the Desolate Council were willing to abandon their queen, not even for Kalia. They wanted to come home and started running at the signal. They started running back, but they were shot all the same. Navanos was actually a little bit shocked by that, but Sylvanas, she did not know if those that came back did so out of fear. How tempted were they until that point, until the signal was given? No, she could not take the risk. The only Desolate Council members that she trusted, they were the ones who returned to her early on, broken and bitter, truly desolate. All the others, she could not allow that sentiment, that hope to grow. It's an infection ready to spread, and she has to cut it out. She also knew that this wasn't Anduin's doing. He wasn't that stupid. No. This was on the head of that Kalia girl, and she was going to pay. The Banshee Queen herself fired the arrow that took Kalia's life, despite Anduin rushing the field and trying to save her. He is going to bring her body back to Netherlight Temple though, so the War Chief and the Boy King, they have a little stare down. He knows that she doesn't want a war yet, otherwise they wouldn't be talking. But he has the right to declare it, as she just broke the rules and killed one of his people. But Kalia wasn't one of his though. She was a citizen of Lordaeron, and he was the one who brought a usurper onto the field. It's the Banshee Queen who would be well in her rights to consider that a hostile action. But this stand down, it ends with words, as Sylvanas is not quite ready for her war. Anduin then takes Kalia's body back to Netherlight Temple, where the Naru Sara, Alonsus and the Order is waiting. Kalia would come to me when the dreams of what was past were too painful to endure. I cautioned her to have patience. There were things she had to do before the dreams would cease. Things she must understand. People who would need her help. And I assured her of this seemingly strange truth, that sometimes the most beautiful and important gifts come wrapped in pain and blood. There will be no more of those battles for her now. Kalia Menethil will be freed from the pains of the living, from the nightmares that once wrenched her heart. She understood that those on that field were her people, and she accepted that responsibility by giving her life to try to save them. Not human, as they were when she was young, but forsaken, as they were in that moment. Light and dark, forsaken priest and human priest. Together you shall bring her back as the light, and she herself would have her be. And that's exactly what happens. Alonso and Anduin, they each take one of Kalia's small pale hands, and a torrent of light starts spilling out. Anduin usually experienced the light's power flowing through him like a river. But now it seemed like a whole ocean was utilizing him as a vessel. The light lined him in its warm hue, and it chased around the still yet completely intact body of the Queen of Lordaeron and whirled about the forsaken Archbishop. Anduin felt it swell like a wave, then crashed and break, emptying him, but not depleting him, and the cold hand in his squeezed. Kalia is resurrected, her eyes glowing a soft gentle white, not the eerie yellow hue of Forsaken. She was dead, but she lived. She was no mindless undead, but she was not Forsaken either. She'd been raised by a human and a Forsaken, both using the power of the light, bathed in the radiance of a Naru. Now, despite nearly causing a war, it was never her intention of doing so. She went to the meeting not to become a usurper, but when the Forsaken asked to descend with them, she had a choice. She could support them and reveal who she was and get them and the others to safety, or disavow them and get them killed. She was never taught how to rule, because no one expected her to. She never formally studied politics or strategy, so when she went out there, she just followed her heart and nearly got everybody killed. The book then ends with Gen and Anduin having a discussion of the events, even someone like Gen surprisingly open to the idea of reuniting with the Forsaken, and reassuring Anduin that no one could have foreseen how poorly Sylvanas could deal with anything that wasn't complete obedience. Despite the failure here today, Anduin will never stop hoping for peace and never stop believing that people can change. But he does realize that he's been like a farmer, expected to harvest crops from a poisoned field. It's simply not possible. People can change, but some people will never desire to do so. Sylvanas Windrunner is one of those. He took a deep breath. Sorrow and grim resolve made him look older. Gen had seen similar expressions on the face of those who'd been tasked with a heartbreaking duty. When the boy spoke, Gen was glad of the words, but saddened by his need to say them. I believe, said Anduin Lane Rin, that Sylvanas Windrunner is well and truly lost. And that is where the story of Before the Storm ends, leaving us with Kalia Menethil, I guess a wholly undead now, weaponized Azerites, as well as other utilities for the new substance. The world needed to rally with Magni Bronzebeard in order to heal the planet. And when the Sylvanas trying to see if they can get a small scale of peace going, and a war that she isn't ready for quite yet. Anduin Rin, the boy who once led Garrosh Hellscream into the Veil of Eternal Blossoms. He says that he believes she is truly lost and gone. When someone like Anduin gives up hope, that's really far down, man.
I find your faith inspiring, little one. But I wonder if you have ever met our war chief.
Now, here are a couple of lore details that I thought were interesting to mention. Being crushed by the Divine Bell, that has had an interesting effect on Anduin Rin. Someone in the comments actually called it his holy spider sense. Basically, his bones ache whenever he's on the wrong path, when he was being cruel or thoughtless or courting danger. Quite an interesting effect. Then Greymane, he is pressuring Anduin in selecting an heir for the throne, while he has been forcefully rebuked for taking the assignment into Stormwind much further than Anduin had ordered. The relationship between Sylvanas and Thanos that has been touched upon, although she has left behind most warmer emotions the moment that she is risen from the dead as a Banshee, anger somehow had retained its heat. But she felt it subside to embers now. She seldom stayed angry for long, and Thanos Meris, known now as the Blightcaller. She wanted to reach for his hand, but contented herself with smiling benevolently. So yeah, the emotional feelings between Thanos and Sylvanas, also something touched upon in his short story. That's definitely still something that they're working with. Although I do wonder what that whole emote that Sylvanas does in Battle for Azeroth towards Thanos, I wonder what that is all about. But maybe that will something explained later. Magni Bronzebeard, besides warning the world, he takes a moment to visit his grandkid Dagran, while Jaina, she visits Kalecgos and Dalaran once again. There's still a lot of love between them. But Jaina, she isn't quite done with searching where she belongs. She knows what she's against. She knows what angers her and where her hate is pointed towards. She knows what she doesn't want, but she doesn't know what calms her or what she loves or what she does want. As we see in the comic that they released, the journey takes her to Kal Tiras and will play out in Battle for Azeroth. Valera Sanguinar is still loyal to House Rin and actually helps out with secret communications, the ones that some might see as betrayal to the Horde, but it did allow a different voice to rise up after the events on the Broken Shore. From the Alliance point of view, it seemed like a betrayal, but the Horde has a different version, and on the field of the meeting, Anduin actually asks Sylvanas, like, did you betray my father? She replies by saying, Varian Rin's destiny was set in stone, little lion. The Legion's numbers would have seen to that, whatever choice I made that day. Anduin believes her, and it's not unreasonable to suppose that remaining there on the Broken Shore would have doomed them and the Alliance. Anduin has gotten a lot better with wielding the sword, as we see in Battle for Azeroth. In the past, he was always said to suck at it. He was alright with throwing dagger or a bow, and of course, a very strong affinity to the light. But a fighter like his father, he was not. He still isn't really. But after the events in the Shattering, after his friend Eren died, he began training in earnest. He wanted to become, if not a superior swordsman, a good one at least. And it appears that after a slow start, very similar to Arthas, he can now wield a weapon good enough to hold his own. I was actually planning to end this video with a little opinion piece, give my opinion on the story as we know it so far, but I think I'll save that for a separate video as I've been going on for long enough. All in all, I think a very short opinion would be that I wished they gave more development time to other subjects rather than just the Forsaken storyline that we see in Before the Storm. I really like that they tried to give a different spin to established lore, and they definitely give it time to develop. Like I mentioned in my review, you look at the concept of Forsaken and human reuniting, and at first you're like, really? Is that gonna happen? But over time, with the examples that they use, with the slow but surely build up, you actually start to root for it, and you hope that it actually works out. This book reminded me a lot of War Crimes in that way. There was also the whole build-up of Garrosh potentially maybe, just maybe be better than what he was, and that kind of fell flat on its face, especially with, you know, the whole Wars of Draenor. So I kind of wonder what this story is supposed to build up. We have Sylvanas weaponizing Azerite. We have Anduin being aware of the fear of Azerite and, you know, trying to defend the world against it. We have Kalia as a holy undead for some reason. And of course, we have the messed up meeting between Forsaken and the humans. That's maybe more to profile Sylvanas, and I don't know. Like I said, I'll save my opinion for a specific video where I can actually write down all my thoughts and give it a proper thing. So yeah, for now though, before I start rambling, thank you very much for watching, everybody. As always, when we do these WoWhead collabs videos, if you want more details on all the things that I talked about today, then check out the related WoWhead article in the description down below. You could of course also subscribe to my channel, leave a like if you enjoyed this video, leave a comment with your opinion on the story so far, all the good stuff, and until next time guys, see ya!